Good morning, day 259. Oh my gosh, let me look. Oh, I don't know if you can see it, but the geese are just flying off. So look at that, you guys. Look over here and the colors. Oh, yes. Oh, the camera really doesn't do it justice. There's some geese flying off over there. How cool. So much beauty everywhere around. We just have to get out and look for it and get out of our comfy chairs with our morning coffee and just get out there, or whenever the time of day for you. Like, it's never a bad time. Oh goodness, let me show you this. So beautiful. Love the colors that we're getting. Anyway, let's talk about Romans chapter 2 today. It's a good one. It can be a little, it can seem like a little bit harsh at times, because even the title of it in my translation was, I think, the judgment of sin. I was like, oh, nobody likes judgment. But then he starts off, I'm going to go down here by the lake so you'll see how beautiful this is. And make sure I don't walk into a spider web. Hey, good morning. Oh, look, y'all have to see this. Oh, yeah, there's a big honking spider web with a big honking spider. Do spiders honk? I don't think, but anyway. So beautiful. Anyway, we'll see if we can get some better perspective without putting me in danger of getting a spider bite. Oh my gosh, you guys. All right, sorry. We're going to have to just pause on nature here for a minute. Like, literally, you cannot see the land on the other side. It just is all quiet and peaceful and grayed out and muted. Wow. So cool. Anyway, okay, Romans chapter 2, judgment of sin. And he really does, Paul says, look, none of us, if you're reading what I just wrote at the end of chapter 1 or the last paragraph of my letter here and thinking, yeah, because he was talking about people that fall into sin, and you're thinking, yeah, and pointing your finger, he goes, hold on, we're all guilty of it. We all sin. And so we are not in a position to judge others. None of us. That's God's job. And then he goes on to talk about the difference between Jews and Gentiles. And I've titled today, The Pitfalls of Privilege, because that's what I was thinking about as I was reading it. And even leadership, or being in a position of authority, which at the end of the day is a position of privilege. And if you're in a position of authority, which all of us are somewhere in our lives, whether you're a parent, you're leading somebody, whether you intend to or not. We're all in a position of privilege, of authority and leadership at some level. And the Jews, and there's some pitfalls to that. You can get complacent. You can think, well, maybe you're an expert on something, and that puts you in a position of privilege over other people. And that's sort of what happened with the Jewish people of the day. This was a lot of their big struggle, was they were set apart, they were privileged, and they thought that was enough. Like, God just loves me. Yes, I know the laws, and they are raised in the law and knowing the law, and that even puts them in a position of privilege. And the pitfall of privilege, authority, leadership, expertise, is that we tend to get outwardly focused with it. We don't necessarily, we can fall into the pitfall of complacency with our own selves and our own lives. Even thinking I spent many years in the corporate world, and then those that are in management positions, that's a lot to be responsible for. You're responsible for their performance, their numbers that you have to then turn around and report to your leader. But how many times is a manager, I know I've had managers and been in a position of leadership where I'm so focused on making sure they're doing what they're doing that I get complacent about sometimes the things I'm supposed to be doing. And I can get, we can get judgmental. Yesterday we touched on it even with parenthood. Like, do as I say, not as I do. Like, I'm in this privileged position now. My job is to teach you. And it doesn't matter if you see me doing something differently, if I'm not doing my own words and what I say. You have to do what I say anyway. Like, don't pay attention to what I'm doing. That's kind of like what the Jews were doing. It's like they're going around going, well, I'm a Jew. I know the law. But I don't have to abide by it. I'm privileged because I'm a Jew and because I know these things. And then got complacent about their own responsibility and expectation for doing the things that they knew better about. And then Paul uses the example of, here, let me pause for a minute. Those of you on camera with me, this is a really good angle here. Oh, wow. I'm going to really try to zoom in if I can. Yeah, it doesn't always let me do that on Facebook. There we go. Look at that. You can see the fog and the mist through the trees and on the hill and the sunrise. Oh, so beautiful. And the water and the colors reflecting. So good. Yes, complacency is a tempting trap. And it can seem overwhelming. It's like, not only do I have to make sure other people are doing this, but I've got to do it myself. And really, when we're doing the things ourselves, it's actually easier to lead others to be, and then you realized how privileged you are and not letting yourself get complacent with the privilege of knowing things, being an expert, being in a position of authority or leadership. Like, don't let yourself slip into complacency, because he goes back to even the Gentiles who don't have the law. They have their conscience. They know it's written on their heart. We have evidence that people don't need to know God or about God or know God's laws in order to live right and get the benefits of blessing, because we are all given the God consciousness of what's right and wrong. And when we start to abide in that and live by that, we start to experience the blessings, and then we start to get it, and we're like, oh, when I behave this way and I live from this vantage point, I'm in a position of privilege by knowing this, by virtue of knowing it and then doing it. I receive blessing. I receive the benefit. And not only that, those around those people receive it as well. They get led by example instead of just by word. And it's so much more than just than knowing something. Knowing something and then not doing it puts you in a really vulnerable place of judgment even from within. Like when you, and judgment and the pitfall of self-deceit too. That's when we really start going, well, you rely on the privilege versus feeling the privilege of privilege. You know what I mean? Like it is easy to do because it becomes your new normal. That's what complacency is. You are probably excited about something at first. Maybe you've gotten a promotion, you become the parent, you're in whatever club or community, and you've been given the privilege of a leadership role, and you're like, oh, wow, this is great. But then it soon becomes your new normal. And sometimes when complacency sets in, it becomes too much of a burden because you shift the responsibility outward. Like, I become responsible for how you show up, rather than we take the focus off of ourselves. And we're so focused on others and our jobs and our performance that we forget to look in the mirror and start with ourselves. And it's a much easier to actually lead and be in a position of privilege when we take the time on a regular basis to remind ourselves, wow, this is really a privilege. What a blessing that I get to do this. I get to, not I've got to. I've been doing that a lot with myself lately when I catch the overwhelm coming in, and I've got deadlines and the to-do list and all these people depending on me to do this and that, and I'm like, get overwhelmed, and I've got to do this, and I've got to slow myself down and say, no, I get to do this. This is a privilege. Wow, I've come so far. Look at what I've accomplished, and all these people that are encouraging me and trusting me. Like, that's a get to. I get to do this versus I've got to. So anyway, that is what I'm going to leave you with today. We're going to walk down by the water again, and I'll leave you with a beautiful sight of what I am privileged. And that's something else. We'll talk about that on another day, that I personally have not lived from a position of feeling privileged to live where I live. And God's working on me, and I'm working on me in my heart in that. And you're probably looking at this on the camera and going, how could you not? Yeah, another story for another day. But I am working. I do appreciate it in the moment. And the more I learn to live in the moment, in the now, gosh, the more privileged I feel. And what a life, and down to its basic essence, being alive, having breath in our lungs is a freaking privilege. And we know that. That's, I think, why Paul went back to the nature of things, and even the Gentiles who don't have the law. As humans, we have access to the higher truth when we get still and we get in the now, and we realize what a privilege it is just to be alive. And you can have this perspective no matter what's going on in your life. And that may sound trite to you and go, you don't know what's going on in my life and blah, blah, blah. I've been in some pretty dark places, and we always have a choice to feel the privilege of life itself. I needed this reminder today. So thank you, God. Thank you, Paul, for writing the book of Romans, or the letter to the Roman church. Yeah, I needed the reminder of what a privilege it is just to be human, just to be alive, to have my lungs working for me and get breath in my air. All the other stuff is just that. It's stuff. And when we can live from a position of, wow, how lucky am I? How privileged am I to even have this human experience? Gosh, I can lead by example from that place and avoid the trap of complacency, at least for today. All right, talk to you all later. Rise and shine. Romans chapter 2. Bye.